with college for a second.
All right, that's the one. It was college. It was Miami playing someone. It was a really good game going back and forth.
I was going to talk Texas, Georgia here in a second. So welcome to Brown and Browner. We're leading right in today with the criticism of referees, both on a personal front and then going into some play of the NFL and college over the weekend. So I'll let you kind of kick it off. You were mentioning the Miami game to kind of kick off here.
Yeah, I just saw some highlights, but wasn't there some type of play where there was a score, but they ended up calling it back?
Yes. Yep.
Do they have that ability in college? And if they do, then it needs to be applied across the board, because there was there were a couple of replay issues that happened this Saturday.
All scoring plays are reviewed at the top, as far as I know and I've heard. So I think it was probably a decent call in that respect. I don't know if it contradicted what was on the field necessarily, but I mean, all plays are reviewed in college. The one that I was going to touch on big time was actually during Georgia, Texas, so the big game of the weekend. Mm-hmm. You had a pass interference called on the field. I think everybody and their mom, regardless of whether you're a Texas fan or a Georgia fan, knew that it was a bad call on the field. So they called pass interference against Texas. Georgia had the ball, and it was actually a pick six. Or sorry, not a pick six. It was an interception. Interception. Mm-hmm. It turned the tide because the game was still a one-score game at that point. Texas was down, and they got the ball back with limited time to play. The referees made a blatantly bad call, called pass interference on the Texas guy before he got the interception, even though phantom play. So Georgia quarterback throws it up. Georgia receivers out there completely kind of turned around, didn't even see the ball coming, goes right into the hands of the Texas kid. Now, the Georgia player was already visibly pushing off to create separation off the DB.
That's offensive pass interference, not defensive pass interference.
But the Texas guy still got the ball. Mm-hmm. So right in his hands, got the interception, clean as day, no problem. Should have just let it continue on his play. The referees call pass interference. Texas fans are in upheaval, obviously, the 110,000 that are there.
Yeah, I saw they threw trash everywhere.
Well, and that was the big thing. So they throw trash on the field. They throw bottles because apparently you can still drink in Texas while you're at a college game, which is new to me.
I didn't know they still allow bottles.
I didn't know they allowed that in college. Yeah,
so that was a thing.
I was confused by that aspect. So they litter the entire end zone with bottles. After one kid does it, 100 others and 1,000 others do it. So they had to call time on the game, clean up the field, all that stuff. As they're doing that, the referees are all huddling, trying to figure out what to make sense out of everything. So not just the interception, but even the penalty of the fans, disturbing the game, everything else. I think in that time, the powers that be above at headquarters or whatever decided to rule on the field, and they decided to call it an interception and overturn the call on the field. Now, did the fans throwing the bottles on the field and buying that extra time cause that to happen?
But it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be
that.
And new standard, we're in trouble.
Yeah, and the other thing that's a little, I'm just going to throw this in here. It's probably not applicable, but it sounds like soccer referees, where all of a sudden they're changing calls because they're worried about the 110,000 fans coming down on them,
killing them. Yeah, and see, and that was Kirby Smart's argument, the coach for Georgia, after the game. He's like, look, I get that it was probably a bad call on the field, but obviously he's going to champion for his own call. Don't get me wrong, and he has every right to do that. But he also said, if we're going to be setting a precedent where we can have fans come to buy time and create overturns on calls, we're in for a heap of trouble, especially in the SEC, where you average 100,000 fans a game. And you've seen some really good fan bases that I think I highlighted you in LSU highlight from yesterday.
Right.
Man, though that's a hell of an atmosphere. I'd love to go down there for a game. But
sure. But what if you're on the field and you're worried about the backlash because someone didn't like your call?
Yep. So no, something's got to be done about that. I think what should have happened in the game, this is just my personal take. Yes, you overturn the call because you've had video review and you should be able to do that. That's a whole different matter. But the fact of the matter is your fans littered on the field. It should have been a 15-yard penalty.
That is a thing in college now, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's a penalty anywhere, even the NFL, from what I understand, if there's some kind of thing where, if you've got, fan disturbance, whatever it is, it's a 15-yard penalty, and it should have been assessed on that interception, I think.
Well, here's the thing I'm curious about, and I actually saw it in the pro game and was surprised by it. There are times that, I forget which game it was, where a play happened and the call was wrong. I think it was a whether a guy caught the pass or not. They said they caught it on the field. Within 5 seconds, they immediately overturned the call. 5 seconds. They immediately overturned the call and said, no, instant replay something, saw that this was incomplete, boom. And they got it all right. And it took that much time. How come that can happen sometimes and it can sometimes? And I get it. Depending on the type of play,
sure,
there's potentially a need to look at it multiple ways, da-da-da-da-da. But there are certain things that you can see right away. Pass interference, if I just run a 5-second clip, I can see all of the contact and play by those two players and come up with a judgment call like that. Why does it take so much time?
See, and that's what concerns me, because in college, it's up to each conference office to rule on that stuff at a whole. The NFL's got the main office in New York that oversees everything, right?
Right.
So we're looking at, 10 games at a time, whatever it is.
Sure. And
conference
has conferences that dictate.
Smaller pod. Granted, I think there's more money in college, but there's a big, smaller pod of games you're looking at. You should be able to overturn that quickly and look at things in a video monitor very quickly, in my opinion.
Put two guys in a room.
Yes.
That's all you do this game.
Yep.
I think it'd be pretty easy.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, that's where I have some concerns about like why that didn't get resolved a lot quicker. And more importantly to the refs, I would like to hear something from the officiating crew or their powers that be on why it took so long to overturn that call, and if the fans actually had an interaction in doing that, meaning buying time for the refs to reconsider. Because honestly, that's a bad precedent to set anywhere.
Hell yeah, it is, because that'll happen at every game and every stadium, and then what?
Absolutely.
Fans and commentators should not dictate how the game is played. They can comment on it, they can view it, but they cannot participate in it.
I mean, I don't know if you watched the Chiefs game yesterday, but there was a lot of fist throwing going on.
Man, okay, so we're both Chiefs fans. First off, love the fact that we can beat the 49ers.
I love that we just grounded
all of that stuff. I just love the fact we went into their house and just trashed the place and left.
Yeah.
But in seeing that particular play, the one you're mentioning, where Trent Williams got kicked out of the game, I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan, but he did not start that. Nope. He was defenseless on his knees and hands and knees, and the guy slapped him in the head. And I'm sorry, especially if I'm losing, what am I going to do next?
Well, there was a play, I think two plays before that, where you saw the couple of linemen going at it too. Mm-hmm. And same thing. See, then this where I get on the refs. It should, if you're looking back at it in any fashion, video or otherwise, both players should have been ejected, not just Trent Williams.
And that's what should have happened.
Yes.
They called the penalty.
Yep.
But they did not eject the guy.
Yep,
and he should have been ejected, just like Trent Williams. That was unfair to Trent Williams.
You hit the nail on the head. They called the penalty on both sides. It was improper hitting on both sides. So why didn't you suspend both? Or not suspend, but eject both. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I have a feeling, now that I'm thinking back on it, I have a feeling that the penalty that they called was a different penalty. And they didn't call him for that penalty.
The penalty on the Chiefs on that particular thing with Trent Williams was face masking, essentially.
That's what it was, yes. It was face masking.
But think about it. I mean, the time that he hit the face mask was when he went like this.
Exactly.
Now, not to make it comical, why do we have players punching helmets?
Well, and they said that. But you know what, though? I've had a helmet on and done my share of some things on the field, back in the day. If you open hand slap somebody, slap on the head, you know how you get that concussion, you get the ring in? You can do that. That'll get you. This, I'm not 100% sure of, because this is how you break this guy. Yeah, you can hurt him, but you'll be breaking your hand. So that's true. They do that a lot, too. Usually what you'll see is they'll pull the face mask and try to yank it off and then get into it. But I'm not sure why, but I have to say this. He slapped Trent Williams' head, but the way Trent Williams came back and hit him.
Trent Williams came back and bitch slapped him.
Yeah, he said, and I love the fact that the commentator said, I don't know who started it, but I know who ended it.
Yeah, I know kidding. And first off, I'm sorry, but the player for the Chiefs, you're a moron if you're trying to start a fight with Trent Williams.
Yeah, I would never advise that. That's just
you wouldn't have a gang of 10 trying to attack Trent Williams.
Yeah, that's the guy you leave alone. That's the guy that's sitting in there. You step on his foot and you say, "Excuse me," and never look back.
There's only one man physically that could stand up to Trent Williams. I don't think I even want him standing up. It's Chris Jones, and that's it.
Jones, big boy. And I have to say, do you love the fact that Kansas City, and it seems to be baffling these commentators and how they're looking at it. Even Vegas, they have them at like 17% odds winning, but Detroit's like right behind them and a couple other teams. Their defense, even though they're not the top ranked defense, if you look at fantasy, they're not killing it. Although yesterday they got you 20 points. Yeah. They are doing exactly what's needed when it's needed. Every time. And Spags is calling up the right plays the right way. There were times when you could see they were waiting for like blitzes and they weren't blitzing. Then they caught him with the blitz off guard. I just love it. It just looks so great. It's not Patrick Mahomes. Don't get me wrong. Dude is amazing. That whole play, the little fake with the ball fake and then stepping in between, let the guy run past you and then run for another 30 yards. Gotta love all of that. And
my
that's
son
why
said,
he's the best quarterback.
My son was like, why did Pat Mahomes do a choo-choo train pull?
But he just seems to, you know what it is, and they said it today on Get Up. He plays with the joy of a kid when he's on the
backyard
field.
Football, baby.
He plays backyard football. He makes it up. He's 100% in on every play. That's what you want in a teammate, and that's why he's a winner. He's not the fastest guy, but when you saw that play, he actually outran a couple of people.
There's teams that stick to like their bread and butter and their systems and all that crap. And I'm sorry, but that is not the Chiefs this year, and nor have they been in the past as much. But this year, I think more so, where we adapt to the game, and that I love. I love that Spagnuolo adapts to the game. Though I'll tell you what, the three linebackers we have this year, they've got to be the fittest guys on the club because they adjust and modify on the fly on that defense to adapt to Spagnuolo's game planning and scheming, which is just awesome to watch, honestly. Leo Chenal, that dude's a dog.
Yeah, I love it, man. And the Chiefs just look like they're going to take it again. I just love it. This three-peat looks good.
I will say that minus I'm still very impressed by the Lions. Very.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now,
wait, before
they are that one defensive cog away. I think Aiden Hutchinson cost them that little piece so far.
Yeah, that could come back to haunt them or to hurt them. Yeah. I have to say one thing. When you were commenting on Spags, there is one other defensive coordinator who I feel his players have to be in the tip-top shape.
Yep.
And that's Brian, what's his name, in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, Flores, baby. Yep.
He has his players line up all over the place. Yes. You can't even tell what the play is. Yeah. By the time you snap the ball, linebackers have run back into a certain place. Cornerbacks have come off or come in, and he's blitzing a high percentage of the time. And I'm telling you, teams aren't ready for that. This is game 7, and teams still aren't ready for it. The Lions won that game, but I have to say that Minnesota, don't sleep on Minnesota, even with Sam Donaldson.
I think the commentator said week 18 is the rematch. That's going to be a hell of a lead up into the playoffs, let me tell you.
I think so. And the way it's working right now,
if everything works out the way it should, that game should determine either your 1 or 2 seed probably walking into the playoffs in the NFC.
Well, let's look at the rest of the NFC.
Yeah.
What's the best record? So Washington has the best record in the East.
The West is falling apart because, I mean, obviously.
Okay, don't get me wrong. Seattle, don't they have a winning record? Are they 4-3?
Seattle's got a winning record. Yeah. However, I think it's going to come down to 2 things. Seattle's going to have to continue to play well. They got to get health. I mean, DK Metcalf can't go on injuries half the time. That's just crazy.
Yeah, that was a bad pass. I'm sorry. The dude tried to jump like 15 feet in the air and just left himself exposed. And it wasn't even in bounds. It wasn't even in bounds.
Yeah, Geno's going to have to keep balling. They got a great run game. I like Seattle. However, if the 49ers can somehow get healthy, that's their biggest problem. I mean, yesterday they played shorthanded. I mean, let's face facts.
They've been playing shorthanded all year.
5, 6, 7 receivers. I mean,
and they're getting injuries in the game as it's going along. So
their fitness is just bad.
They could rattle off 6 in a row easy. I could see San Francisco doing that.
If they get healthy, they'll be the dangerous team out of the West. But at the end of the day, there's not much else out of the West. I mean, everything else is it. No. I mean, the Ravens are falling apart.
The Cardinals, yeah. nothing. And the South, Atlanta lost at home, right?
That was a shocker.
I mean, Seattle blew them out.
Yep. Shocker.
New Orleans,
didn't carry a chain on the field.
New Orleans was Cinderella.
Yep.
And 12 o'clock struck like that because they won their first two games.
They lost.
Like, ooh, New Orleans, and now they've lost 4 or 5 in a row.
They lost everything. They lost Carr. They lost Shaheed. I mean, they fell into shambles, basically.
Okay, and that's something, not to get off the subject, but is there something going on with the way teams are preparing for games? Because I swear this year, more
injuries than I've ever seen.
It's like everybody's getting injured everywhere.
I think there's a Twitter handle I follow. I think it's called SportsMed Analytics. And the guy's an orthopedic surgeon, and he tracks the injury bugs around the league, and it's a good follow. Mm-hmm. That said, I mean, I think he's noted on podcasts and stuff that basically he's seen a very, very high incidence of injuries and things like that. He attributes it to two things. One, with the advent of having to pay players a lot more these days, it's taken a toll on teams' budgets in terms of what they can invest into their medical staff. And you'll see that. He's actually even pointed out, I think, particular instances where they've had like one less therapist on the team or whatever it is. And he puts a lot of that onus back to the fact that players are also bringing in their own like medical staffs of their own, right? Because they can afford them. When you got Dak Prescott making $60 million, I'm sure he can afford to spend $10 million on his fitness and everything else. TB12, good example. They'll bring in their own regimens and things like that. They won't necessarily follow the team doctors or team meds. They'll follow their own thing, and it's completely in line with the NFL supports. Is that costing players? I guess would be question one. Question two, this whole thing of where we've shortened the preseason and a lot of players sit out and they start the season late. Is that playing a toll into all these literally early season injuries that we're seeing? A ton of them, by the way.
Significant ones.
Yes.
I got 2 guys on one fantasy team that are on IR. I got Shaheed and McCaffrey. On one fantasy.
I got IRs on another squad. Yeah, it's bad. Yeah.
It's puzzling because I can't recall ever seeing this many people go out, and not just go out for a game. I'm talking about multiple games that you're seeing many of the players missing. And granted, we've always had an injury bug. Some players are just injury prone, but this is widespread across the league. And I got to say one thing before I forget to say this. Cleveland, I'm not going to say anything because I do think that it was very, very lack of class of all of your fans to cheer anybody getting hurt. You never cheer someone getting hurt. You may want to beat them. When I used to play, and everybody who's ever played, you want to hurt the other team, but you're not trying to cripple them. You're not trying to do anything to hurt their lives as far as, outside of football too. So that was so distasteful. And I just I can't believe that the fan base did that.
Myles Garrett said it best after the game.
Yeah, I did see a couple of those interviews afterwards. But just from a here we are Brown and Browner standpoint, wasn't that a lucky break for the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Well, I read an interesting take this morning too on top of that. So the lucky break, I think you bring up a good point. The secondary one is apparently at least someone in the Cleveland front office was savvy enough to do this after learning from other folks, I think, around the NFL. They took an insurance policy on Deshaun Watson. So in the event that
he's a long time ago,
in the event that he is injured on the field, they've been paying obviously millions and millions of dollars into this policy. This policy pays out potentially, and we won't know because it's an NDA, potentially up to half of the salary. Now, the reason we know that it could be half is because apparently the same thing Jets did with Rodgers last year, and they got $37 million paid out of that insurance policy.
Yeah, that just makes sense. What is that, Lloyd's or whatever they used to do back in the day? Well, insure your legs, insure your arms, all of these famous people.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing with it. It also helps your cap for next year. So basically that $37 million or whatever for the Jets was basically wiped off their cap, at least for this year, because it was paid out in cash, basically, from a policy. Same thing with Deshaun Watson. You're going to get, I don't know, 30, 40 million, whatever the hell it is, paid out of it, at least, and get you protect your cap money. Now, for Cleveland, yes, it is a lucky break, in my opinion, that this happened.
I'm not saying that in a malicious way. I'm just saying coincidence and circumstances seem to come together in the right way. Now they don't have to come up with, we got to play him because we're paying him this much money. Now they don't have to make that call, and they can let other players. And it's funny how Jameis Winston came in and actually looked like he was a quarterback. Maybe he should have been playing earlier.
So right before the game, I'm watching Fox, I think, and they're saying that Jameis was actually ruled inactive before the game, technically, or not inactive, but he was
the emergency quarterback.
He was an emergency, so he was third behind.
How did he end up third behind? I didn't even know the other guys.
DTR, Dorian Thompson Robbins, whatever, hyphenated name, dude. Yeah.
Exactly. Who?
Yeah, exactly. So and that's the thing. Like, I'm confused. I'm like, Jameis Winston was an NFL quarterback for quite some time. Jameis Winston also has thrown a lot of touchdowns in this league. Yes. And I don't care whether he's completed them to his own receivers or not, but the guy can ball. Let's face facts.
he knows how to read a defense.
Especially when you've got guys.
To some degree.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but we shouldn't have to start guys like DTR, Skylar Thompson, Snoop Huntley. I'm sorry, but these guys suck. We'll say it. They all suck. They're not NFL court. I could start. There's guys probably in the fans in the stadiums that can do better than this.
Yeah, it didn't look good. It did not look good. And for them not to have played Jameis early, I don't understand that.
Well,
I get if you got to pay somebody, but you're trying to win, sit the guy you got to pay. Just eat that money because you made a mistake. Because the fans deserve to feel like you're trying to win. Even more importantly than the fans, your defense, who busts their ass every game. Myles Garrett on telling you on the microphone. How do you keep coming back with Deshaun Watson when none of them have trust, faith, and have any hope with him at the quarterback? So how do you expect the defense to continue to play at a high level when you're constantly showing them you don't give a fuck?
Yeah, no, it's tragic. At the same time, I think it ends up being a good thing for Cleveland. I hate to say it that way.
That's now, I don't mean to sound malicious.
Yeah, we have no malicious intent here, but at the same time, it's like this couldn't have worked out better in the scenario for all things considered. For the defense, Myles Garrett, you feel for that. The team needed a change. It happened. Let's move forward. Simple as that.
Yep.
And now you can do. Yeah. And now you figure out what you got to do with Deshaun afterwards, and that's fine at this point. That,
it's already a done deal. I'm sorry. What is the record now? I don't know. 2-4, 2-5, 1-6.
I mean,
1-5.
If there's any highlights, if there's any highlights to be had, Nick Chubb getting back, great story. I'm glad he's back on the field and glad he's producing. I had selfish reasons for fantasy too, but honestly, I like seeing a comeback story of a guy that had to blow out his knees. I mean, that's awesome. Yeah.
Right. Agreed. But Cleveland as a whole, I just feel so bad for the fans because they had high hopes a couple years ago, even with Baker Mayfield, and their team is steadily going down, and it's because of bad decisions by the GM/owners who are allowing their team to become mediocre with probably one of the best defenses in the league.
We value teams as being an identity of their city, both in all sports, not just football, but basketball.
True.
Cleveland is a workhorse city. It's a blue-collar city. You blew it all up in culture when you decided to pay a guy outside Deshaun and bring him in and completely stymie that from the fact that you had a working-class system building with Chubb, Garrett, Baker Mayfield, who was a workhorse.
Why did they get rid of Baker Mayfield? Look at what he's
done. This was your brand identity. This was everybody getting on the back, the fans, everything. Like that would have been like the way to market a team, in my opinion. Yes. But instead, you decided to blow it up with this outside force, and it sounds like that outside force never got in with the inside force ever. It seems like.
And if they would have done the right fit, this eerily resembles the Jets.
Yes, 100%.
If they would have gotten the right guy, if Deshaun would have been the Deshaun that you knew in Houston in the first few years, that would have been okay. Yep. He would have been accepted. They would have embraced him. It would have been, building up the team. But it's just the opposite. And you're seeing, it's almost like what I've experienced in most of my fandom as a Chicago fan.
Yes.
Sports. They suck when they're here, but as soon as you let them go, you start realizing what you lost. Yep. Baker Mayfield went to the Rams, won a game on like a week's notice. Now he's leading Tampa Bay, led them to the playoffs, looks good as a quarterback. The team embraces him. Imagine if they would have kept that in Cleveland. The guy already had his Cleveland his commercials where he was protecting the stadium and stuff. Why didn't you keep the guy?
No, like I said, it stymies me when cities give up on their identity or teams give up on their city identity. And I think that's what costs them at the end of the game. That's the problem. You have to understand that when you talk about the Rust, when you talk about the Rust Belt and basically the Midwest, essentially, you're talking about a working class town. Detroit, classic example, built literally from the ground up now, ground up, and they are awesome.
They are. They went through their 0-16 season, but since then they've made a concerted effort to make a team that can be competitive to win a championship, and they're here. They've been here now for the last 2 years, and I don't see them going away unless money gets in the way and they make some bad moves.
No, I think they're poised for a good 5-year stretch, hopefully, because they got so much young talent on that team. As long as they're paying and everything else, they'll be set. And especially in that division now, it gets interesting. Now let's bring back to what you just mentioned about this team called the Jets Jets real quick. I'm sorry, but last night should put a stick in their coffin. I mean, seriously, that was atrocious. And I'm sorry, but I don't know if I haven't even looked at any of the post press this morning, but that was 100% Aaron Rodgers' fault last night.
Well, and that's what they're saying. And at 100%. At what point do you go, you know what? It isn't the team, it's this guy.
Yes.
It's the Deshaun Watson factor.
Yes.
Because we brought in this quarterback, paid him a lot of money, changed our whole culture to fit his needs, and we're getting nothing in return.
Yep. Yeah, I think they shot over
Zach, where you at, Zach? Zach, calling Zach. You can come back, Zach. We'll pay you a hell of a lot less to see the same results.
I'm telling you, and you see the video shots of like Woody Johnson. Dude has like no friends apparently sitting in his box. It's just sad, but it's like
I didn't see that.
Dude, you sold your soul to the devil, and the devil's winning right now. I'm sorry to say.
Well, and at some point, I would just want to hear Aaron Rodgers say, "This is all my fault." That's what I want to hear.
I think doesn't he make like pop-up visits on McAfee once in a while? I'd love to see that today if he comes on there and say, "Look, I fucked up. I'm sorry." You know.
He's got to say that because this was all about him.
100%.
They forfeited their last season with the hopes of this season him coming back. And guess what? It looks really bad.
It's worse than last season, in my opinion.
Did you see some of the passes he was throwing?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it was 100% him. He shortchanged so many balls that if you subtract the time machine, maybe 6 years, he makes those throws. He was underthrowing Garrett Wilson all day long. All day long. I mean, okay, I understand, Davante Adams like less than a week to prepare. That's fine. But you were underthrowing your receivers all day long in coverage. And yes, I get that the Steelers defense is awesome. Don't get me wrong. But you're Aaron Rodgers, supposedly. You supposedly wear a cape. I don't think so. I think your cape was taken away when your balls were detached when you left Green Bay at this point.
Well, here's my indictment on him. He was supposed to be the leader coming in. He's the new guy.
Yeah.
And yet he did not think it was prudent for him to go to OTAs, to go and hang out with the team and really develop that chemistry and understanding. He went somewhere else and went and, vacation, did whatever. Again, Derek Carr, the opposite. And Derek Carr is Derek Carr.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers, like the name, just saying Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr. You know what I'm saying? So you didn't do what was necessary, and you just expected to basically. Here's what I think of Aaron Rodgers. If it doesn't go well, it's everybody else's fault. It definitely isn't my fault.
Yep.
Well, now you got Davante Adams, you got everybody that you asked for, and you suck.
Yep. 100%. Like I said, I'm waiting for Eddie Lacy and Jordy Nelson and everybody else to come back. And you know what? He's gonna line Woody Johnson's pocket. Now, here's a fun little conspiracy theory. I doubt there's any credence to this, and I think I still got to do my research. I think Woody Johnson is affiliated with Johnson & Johnson. Don't get me wrong. I think he is.
I don't know about that.
I don't think he was, but there's a funny.
I don't think so, but I'd have to look that up.
Let's just pretend that he's somehow affiliated with Johnson & Johnson. This is Aaron Rodgers' personal attack against
getting back at him because he was inoculated.
Yeah. He's like, let's just get the guy to pay for my entire team.
I just find that comical. But I did want to loop back. One other thing about that game we just talked about. Yeah. Okay. Russell Wilson's going to get all the accolades today. Yeah. We're going to say he looked like the old Russell. First, before you say that, there were a couple of plays. There was a screen pass where he threw the ball 5 yards behind the receiver. Yep. There were a couple other passes where he threw them just totally. I could have thrown those passes. Then he did some good things. But if you think about the good things that happened, it was more Pickens than him. Now, granted, he throws a ball like this, so it makes it easier for a receiver to catch it than Justin trying to throw bullets.
Yes.
So I agree with that. But Pickens made a couple of miraculous catches that made Russell Wilson look like he was doing everything, but I didn't feel like he was as good as people think he was.
No, and you got to realize, like, George Pickens is an enigma because the dude has physical talent beyond means. We haven't seen enough of it yet, obviously. Yeah, and it's been a product of the system of having to deal with the quarterbacks he's had. It's also his own personal problem because dude's got an attitude. We know that.
And he's got an attitude.
So it'll be interesting to see if that'll still kind of develop as the season goes, meaning like he gets better and better now, and he realizes, hey, when I get the ball, I can be dangerous. Well, no shit. Well, let's play like you want to be part of a team instead of being, Mr. Individual Contributor at this point.
Mr. Wide Receiver Diva.
Yeah. Don't take a page out of Mr. Antonio Brown's book or something of that sort at this point.
But speaking of which, he just came out and like backed Donald Trump.
Oh, my God.
Hopefully it was Antonio Brown because he's
when you got Antonio Brown
in
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. But I do feel like it was good that Russell allowed George, like, threw enough balls to him, and he threw a couple of good passes, caught a touchdown, all of that. But couldn't Justin have been talked to do more of that?
Well, so I'll take it back even further. The reason Russell succeeded, I think, and like you said, you already pointed out the reasons that he probably shouldn't have succeeded. Don't get me wrong. That front line, so I think the commentator said this was their 9th different front line that Pittsburgh's put forward this season or something like that. Or no, sorry. This is their 5th different front line with 9 different players being put into the front line to protect. So I think they finally figured out a frontline protection for Pittsburgh because honestly, the thing that won in the game, Najee Harris in that front line. That was bulldozing.
Yes, he's running with a purpose.
Yes, that guy was bulldozing all line against a formidable front line for the Jets, mind you.
Yeah.
He ran and he ran hard. So there's no question. So that I think bought Russell Wilson time and pocket presence to get the ball out in his little floaty way, whatever you want to call it.
That's the one big difference between Russell and Justin. And it's a give and take. Russell has the pocket presence. Doesn't have the elusive, eluding ability and can't run anymore. Justin may not have that pocket presence, which is a problem. But boy, when he gets that, I feel something behind me, dude jets out. And there are a couple of plays that if Justin Fields would have been in there,
I would have loved
he'd run to the right, he'd gotten 40 yards.
With the amount of quality protection I saw last night from Pittsburgh for their quarterback, I would have loved to have seen Justin Fields in that same situation. I think you may have seen one or more TDs, honestly, in that situation. It would have been interesting. It would have been interesting.
Maybe.
But like you said, the throwing style is what makes the difference between the two. So if Justin would learn to do a little bit more of what Russell does at times.
Get that loop in your shot.
Yeah.
Don't try to throw the ball 50 yards on a rope. That kind of stuff. Plus, Russell was more accurate last night than what I've seen Justin Fields.
Well,
Justin Fields missed the open receiver, throw it over his head 5 times.
Russell had some easy passes. You have to say, little, gimmies.
Yeah,
I think.
True.
The protections and everything were opened up pretty nicely for him, especially on a couple of those tight end outs and stuff. Like it was just easy dump off.
Even the one to Pickens, there were 2 receivers open. The one to was it Johnson? I forget his last name.
Yeah.
But he also, again, it was like multiple options. Everybody seemed to be open.
Yeah.
I just feel like I get what Tomlin's trying to do, and nobody can question Tomlin. This guy has a track record, 20 years, not a losing record. Go, you can't question him. But what would that do for your confidence? Remember, he's a young quarterback who went through a shitty program in Chicago. You get him, you're boosting up his confidence. He goes 4-2. He's winning games now, which is something he was used to in college and hasn't done in the pros. Mm-hmm. And now you tell him, you know what? You just weren't giving us enough, though. Yeah. And he said all the right things. He said, well, if I would have done better, there wouldn't have been an argument. But come on, man, how would you feel if you went 4-2? You got 1 turnover, which is what they told you to do, and they bench you for Old Man River.
See, that's where I still don't understand the Pittsburgh mentality, because typically they would have been looking forward years in advance of what they need to do. And now you've stymied the mental growth of a quarterback, I think, by sitting him for no apparent reason, because the guy was successful and did nothing wrong, in my opinion. And I'm sorry, but when next year comes around and you got to put a check on the table, you're giving it to Justin Fields and not Russell Wilson. And you need to be able to vet that out in this time of how much that dollar figure will be. And if you're not doing that, I don't get it. I really don't.
I don't either, because how do you nurture? It's like you're trying to nurture this guy.
Yes.
You're trying to get him to grow.
Yes.
And then you tell him, hey, you're growing, but you're not growing as well as we're fast enough or in the way we want you to. So we're going to now let this guy, and I get all the arguments. No quarterback should lose their job to an injury. Ask Drew Brees about that. Drew Bledsoe, Drew Bledsoe. Ask him about that and what happened afterwards. But it's just like, the guy did what you wanted him to do. Ride the horse to the finish line. Don't get off the horse and go jump on another horse and hope that you win the race.
Yep.
And now Justin could be, depending on his mental state, he could be in the corner crying, like the crying game, taking that crying game shower, like I did everything that they asked me to do, and yet I'm still on the bench again. I just feel bad for the kid. I really do.
No, I as much as I hate to say it, I'd almost hope for a Cleveland situation where you continue to play Russell. Somehow he goes down. Justin gets his opportunity back and he runs with it. That's all you can hope for. I mean, it's not that I'm anti-Russell Wilson, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair to a guy that did the job for him to lose the job. That's the problem with me.
6 games into the season, too. Like, Russell hasn't played a down, and you want him to come in. Now, granted, he did the job yesterday. But what's going to happen?
We can say that around the league, though. We could say that around the league. There are guys that have built up their reputation over a number of years and have had successes say, okay, well, they automatically deserve this position. Well, how come we don't do that with Joe Flacco?
Right.
Joe Flacco won a damn Super Bowl.
Right. It should be a pay to you should have to perform, and there should be a competition. Yes. But Russell supposedly won that competition.
Supposedly won the competition.
Tomlin's leaning on and saying, hey, you know what? He was our starting quarterback. I get all of that.
This decision will come down to what Tomlin. Tomlin's put it out there. He said that Russell won the competition, hence why he's back in the driver's seat. Now, if Russell starts failing, who's going to have egg on their face? Well, and more importantly, how is that? Can you even like is Mike Tomlin untouchable? Like, I don't go.
Well, I do feel like Mike Tomlin, he's earned the right to say.
Yeah, he has.
But he can have egg on his face. But what about your team?
Yeah,
your team. If Russell does go down again, do you think Justin's going to come back in there feeling like, he might be happy to be starting again, but boy, it's like when a company fires a lot of people and you're still there and you're happy to have your job, but do you have that confidence behind you that you're not going to be next, that you're not going to be benched again, that you're not going to be scrutinized or criticized for every single mistake because you're not doing I'm not throwing the long ball as well as he is, or I'm not doing that. I just feel like you're not supporting the guy in the right way.
That sounds really familiar. I've heard this story, but I just can't remember how familiar with this one is.
Any corporate American company.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I wanted to get back to the one subject, though. So we were talking about the NFC and Detroit and where they land. I mean, in the NFC North and the possibility of all 4 of those teams making the playoffs. The Bears are in 4th place with a 4-2 record.
Yeah.
Look around the league. How many teams are leading their division with a 4-2 record? I was
going to say, how's your weakest team at 4-2? I mean, think about how stout your division is right now. Seriously. There's a
really good possibility that all 3 of those teams make it. Now, being a Bears fan, I'm less optimistic about the Bears making it. Green Bay looks better.
I tell you what,
Detroit looks better. Minnesota looks better.
November and December are going to be awesome to watch in the NFC North.
Yeah, all divisional games.
And I'm going to ironically say this, in the AFC South.
Could be, but I don't feel like it's a 2-horse race right now.
It should be a 2-horse race. The Jacksonville offense somehow looked okay in London. I'm still not sold on it. Don't get me wrong. Lord Farquaad.
They're 2-5, man.
You're going to have to show me like a 4-game win streak to get in there.
Yeah.
But you've always had the hype and all of that. So I'll give you a fair chance to maybe prove it to me in the next 2 weeks. But Houston and Indianapolis. Yeah, Houston and Indianapolis.
Yeah, Houston and Indianapolis. That's it right there.
That's
It's
looking
not the
good
Titans.
as
The Titans suck.
yeah, it's looking like a good race between those two teams. I'm curious to see the home and home matchup on those two teams because I feel like Indy's got a good D, as you can tell. And they got a great run game. And they got everything kind of moving. Can Richardson stay healthy? And if not, you bring in King Flacco and let him throw.
You know what? I'm
Houston's-
okay with Joe Flacco. They might want to
Houston's
just put
defense-
Richardson on the bench and let Flacco take the rest of the year.
Houston's defense is suspect. We see that now. They're very suspect.
That's strange because they, at the beginning of the season, I thought they had one of the best defenses.
Yep. So they're very suspect. So I mean, honestly, in a shootout, I'd take any other team other than Houston in that matchup if it was a shootout with Houston.
Well, you saw what happened yesterday, right?
Yep.
They got into a sort of shootout and they ended up losing to Green Bay.
And guess what? You got Stephon Diggs acting like Stephon Diggs again, unfortunately.
This is a problem.
Yep.
There are just certain guys, Antonio Brown was one of them,
Yes.
that you put in the locker room and they become ultra divas. They're always worried about the me. And if you're winning, you still hear their voice about me. But when you're losing, it goes up a couple of notches.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you just wait. It's going to be Stephon Diggs, especially with Nico out.
Nico out. That's the biggest
Yeah.
thing that's killing me right now.
Yeah. He feels like he should have now just step into the number one role and you should throw me the ball 15 times.
Yep. No,
I'm sorry,
dude,
Stephon Diggs. You're not that player anymore.
No, he's built an aura around him that he shouldn't be on any team that is a contender, as far as I'm concerned. He's a diva guy at the end of the day. He's the new Terrell Owens, is what he is. Capable of breakouts, but he's not proven it.
No. And it's sad because he still can play. The guy has hands, all of that stuff. And he came in with the right attitude.
Right.
But coming in with the right attitude and having one where you park your attitude just behind the door, and if anything opens that door, your attitude is going to come out.
Yep.
That's Stephon Diggs because he's not the guy who's a team player winner. You know who's a team player who should have an attitude and should be talking it up, because I think this is intentional now, is Travis Kelce. Why
100%.
won't they pass him the ball? I saw a couple of places he's wide open, and the decision was already made to go to somebody else.
Yep. See, and I think I'm fine with it because he understands that he's going to let everybody else chirp all day. He's just going to continue winning. All I do is win, baby.
And that's the kind of player that Stephon Diggs should have been. He's coming on a team that already was pre-made. They didn't need him. So don't come in there diva-ing and go in there and be like, hey, I could teach you how to run a route a little bit better. You could do this just a little bit better and make everyone around you better and enjoy winning as opposed to whining.
Yep.
And that seems to be him. Fuck the winning. I want to whine.
Yep. Can you
dig yourself a grave, Stephon?
Well, that's the thing. He was well respected for being an excellent route runner when he was with Vikings, right? And then he went over to the Bills. You're thinking, oh, this guy's going to be a stud with Josh Allen at the helm. Turns into a diva somehow by moving down getting further north, I guess. Something about that cold weather or whatever.
I'm not sure what happened, but
that's
just a problem. It's a problem. You know what? The best players are the ones that ascend to these high levels and let everybody talk about how great they are, and they just keep performing on the field. You see them get a commercial or two, but you don't hear them talking like that. Ask the Watts. Ask the family of Watts. Ask the family of Bosa's. Ask any of those. You don't hear them chirping and talking, and you don't hear that.
It's all on the field. Now, the guy that I tipped my hat to, Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper showing class. He was in Dallas taking it too.
Act.
Yep.
Class act. There's no question. I think they even remarked it during the game. It's like, yeah, this dude is going to go out there, do his business. He's not going to sit there and talk. He's not going to sit there and chirp. He's not going to do anything. Even in the post game, he was giving credit to the team. Nothing about him. Classic, perfect guy that you want to lock.
Guys you can win with. You can win.
That's why I wish the Chiefs had him.
And you never know. I mean, I still think, depending on how Rashid Rice, not Ray Rice, ends up.
Rashid's done.
Is he done for the season?
He already had surgery. Yeah.
Then I still think we could go out and get somebody. I think they have to.
The rumors are around the league that you could score a number of receivers that are out there somewhere between a second or a fourth rounder. To me, that's a no-brainer because it's going to take you that long to develop someone anyway, And I understand the money part of it. Don't get me wrong. That's the funny part. So in this whole like debacle of money that went around, so I think the Jets are on the hook for almost like 11 or 12 million for Devontae apparently, and the rest of it's going to go to the Raiders or whatever. Amari Cooper, the Bills are paying less than $1 million.
How did they do that?
Well, just the way the contracts are structured. And remember, Amari's collecting almost 2 or 3 paychecks right now. He's still collecting
what for Dallas, what for
Cleveland, and he's getting multi-state taxation right now.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. I still think that Kansas City, you know what? I guess the question I have isn't necessarily that they need to go out and get a receiver. They did that already. What's up with downtown Hollywood Brown? Where is he?
Well, I've never bought into Hollywood Brown even when he started with the Ravens, right? So he's drafted by the Ravens. The guy's supposed to be a speed demon. Now, you know what it reminds me of? He's exactly what McCole Hardman is, and we already have that. We already have it. The guy doesn't have any better hands than McCole Hardman. He's never proven it, whether he was with Baltimore. He's never proven it when he was with Arizona. Apparently he's made of glass still, so he can't even get on the field for us. So you know what? To me, even if he gets on the field, to me, he's still behind Xavier Worthy on the lineup because Xavier is already flying down the field. That's what Hollywood does. He flies down the field. He's not a possession guy.
That's true.
We need a possession guy on the field so that you can open up the likes of a Noah Gray or a Travis Kelce or everybody else. Even Juju was injured yesterday, and I'm like, I don't really care if he's injured because honestly, we can still do without you. You know, we might go get like MVS now that he was released by Buffalo. Who knows? We might have to resurrect that. Apparently, a name we're throwing around. This is a fun one. Denard Robinson, who we had 3 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
Because the Rams are parting ways. But,
Someone said that. I heard that on.
Well, it's only because of familiarity with the system. So I get that. But we need a true one to go out there, be a possession receiver to become that next guarantee of a title.
Yeah, that's why I thought Devontae Adams would have been perfect. Because he is a one.
Could have been, and he's a one, but he'll never play for Kansas City. He's made that very clear.
Why? What was the reason for that?
Rivalry. He's a Raider through and through. At the end of the day, he's a
Raider through and through. Here's a guy who faked a hamstring injury for how many weeks? Get the hell out of here.
Well, see, that's the thing. Man. That's where in the last few weeks I've kind of lost respect for him because you say that you're a Raider, you say you're on the Derek Carr train, everything else for a number of years. I get all that. I respect you for it. You're a baller. And then you're here still chasing the coattails of Aaron Rodgers, which to me that's classless in my opinion.
Yeah.
So you know what? I lost respect for you there. So that's where I would have, like I said, I would have killed to get Amari Cooper, especially for as little as they got him for. It wasn't just the money; even the compensation was like nothing. I'm like, man, that was a big opportunity.
Yeah, that's like the Jerry Jones thing with Derrick Henry.
It's
a no-brainer. If you can get something on the cheap like that, you got that on sale. Get it, boy.
Imagine if Dallas had a running game to start the season. We'd be talking in different circles probably right now.
Probably because
that division's so bad. I mean, granted, I love the Commanders round.
Yeah, no, boy got hurt too.
He got hurt, which is sad.
Yeah,
I think they'll be okay because the funny thing is they have a great backup. Mariota's a great backup.
I didn't even know Mariota was still in the league. Yeah, but Mariota can play.
Dude, he's always been able to play. I don't think he's ever been in the right system because remember, he came in from an aerial system, even in college. He was a Hawaii guy.
He came out of Hawaii, and he was
that dude was balling air like he was an air raid offense all day long. Yeah. So he had to kind of adapt to the NFL and figure out it's a lot faster game and everything else. So I don't think he ever got a fair shake, especially in Tennessee and everything else. Now that he's got the opportunity to back up, become a veteran leader, the guys like him, Jameis, and Flacco, I'm telling you, this could be a year where you see a little resurgence of that core.
I love it. I'm all about the old school anyway. So
I'd
love to see that. Hey, you know what? I think we're going to have to do another show and be able to talk about what happened in its entirety this weekend, go over the slate.
Yeah, especially Monday nighters tonight.
Yeah, the 2 Monday nighters today. These are going to be, one game's not so interesting. The other one is.
That Tampa Ravens game.
Yeah.
Get popcorn ready. I think you're looking for a shootout.
Yeah, buddy. Matter of fact, it's going to be so good, and it's the first game.
Yeah.
So I won't need to watch the second one.
I won't need to tune in for the second one. Yeah, let's catch up later in the week. We'll pick up on the recap and also predict our Week 8 predictions here too.
Week 8's coming, y'all. This is the middle of this NFL season. Let's cherish it and enjoy it all the way through Christmas and through the playoffs in January.
By the way, congratulations to the New York Liberty on the side note.
Oh, yeah. Actually, congrats to them. They actually looked like they were about to falter, but they came
They
through.
looked like they were going to lose. Yeah.
Yeah. But they came through and forced overtime. And in overtime, I don't even think the Mercury scored a point.
Nah, it was a blowout at that point. Brianna Stewart took over the game. Ionescu was 3 of like 20. It was.
I thought it was worse than that. I thought I saw like 1 of 19.
Maybe.
And Brianna was just as bad.
Yeah.
So I don't even know. So the person who got the was it Taylor? I forget her name. Who got the MVP?
Yeah.
She was the one who really was driving. And Ionescu, she did a great job in the first game. Was it the second, third game where she hit the 3 to win it? I think it was game 3.
Yeah.
But that girl was steady, and that you could see Brianna, and they choked. This was game 5. This was
game 5. I thought for sure Minnesota had it. Yeah, I thought for sure they had it.
Actually, there was a layup that was missed towards the end, and that would have won the game for them.
Yep.
So, but it's great to be able to talk about the WNBA, and it was exciting. And the whole year, just to summarize the year, you got Caitlin Clark coming in, you got Reese coming in. You got some young talent. I hope they get rid of the racism and prejudice things that are going on, whether it's Indiana or other states. Let these girls play. They play the game well. They are worth watching. They are entertaining. Let's cherish and applaud that and not have the ugliness of hate come into the conversation.
This is sports, people. This needs to be an equal playing ground for everyone, and it's an enjoyable thing to enjoy. We're fortunate to be able to have sports in the world.
Exactly. And it's supposed to bring us together. Applaud the efforts of all of the people on the court. Let's not throw racism and hate and sexism and all of that stuff into this equation. Let these ladies shine, and let's be appreciative that we get a chance to see it.
Yep, 100% agree. On that note, we will be back later this week with our fun stuff. In the meantime, like Leroy just said, take care, be well, and more importantly, we're all good people in the world. Let's hopefully stay that way.
All right.
Catch you guys later.
Salute you all. Thank you.